Greetings once again, my friends. Now, a lot of people might consider the fact that the next thing that we should probably be talking about is Warbringers Azshara, because that's the third in the Warbringers series. However, that isn't out yet, and instead, Blizzard decided to release a cinematic called Old Soldiers right before the Siege of Lordaeron went live. And part of that, I think, was by design, even though a lot of the WoW fan base doesn't necessarily agree with that. I think a lot of people were going to be very much in disagreement with some of the actions that happened in War of the Thorns, specifically on the Horde side towards Varrock Saurfang. Varrock Saurfang is one of the probably most prominent orc characters that's been around since roughly longer than this, but a lot of people have taken mention of him since Wrath of the Lich King, when the whole campaign in Icecrown to reclaim his son's body kind of happened. And Dranosh Saurfang is the one that died at the Wrathgate, who eventually became Warbringer or Deathbringer Saurfang in the Icecrown raid. And so in a lot of cases, Varrock has been a character that we can all look towards. A lot of people love to reference his argument that occasionally happens in the Stormsong, or Warsong offensive stronghold in Borean Tundra, where they are arguing over the purpose of war and him kind of trying to share some wisdom to Garrosh, who was and is and forever will be a freaking hothead. And so a lot of people loved Varrock from that, and the purpose of this cinematic was to give people some answers in regards to that. Because if you haven't seen the War of the Thorns, Varrock did some pretty dishonorable things, considering he's a very honorable orc that's out of character. In particular, in order to help his war chief, he snuck up on Malfurion from behind and was going to actually axe Malfurion in the back. And then afterwards, when he fails it, he realizes the folly of his actions. He's basically become all that he's fought against. And to a lot of people, I got a little bit of flack when I said that his actions were dishonorable. They are. Does that mean that I hate Varrock? Absolutely not. I love the character. I just think this is a whole new element that you can put towards this character. Varrock has been fighting, I love having these characters occasionally in war movies or in fantasy movies where a guy who has seen so much war, or he's warred so long in his life that it's almost become second nature, and at that point, a dishonorable action kind of grays in your head, and you execute it, and then you realize, what have I done? Okay, I actually love the fact that they did this with Varrock, a guy who has been very sternly against a lot of Sylvanas' actions in regards to Battle for Azeroth. And Old Soldiers was to show that. After the Burning of Teldrassil, he points out the obvious problem here. Do you realize what you've done? They are going to come. All of them. We have to be held responsible for this. And that's why you join him on the ramparts of Old Lordaeron, or the Undercity, as the Alliance has arrived and they're getting ready to commit to their siege, and kind of seeing what he's dealing with at that point. He's done dishonorable actions on the battlefield, and on top of that, you also get a touching little portion of it devoted towards his son, Dranosh, and the fact that, well, death came for Dranosh sooner than his dad, and his dad holds that as a big deal. He hasn't received his honorable death, whereas many that he's seen before him have been able to do just that. And one of the other elements that I have to address here, because he's internet famous as far as anybody's concerned, is the introduction of the troll. I guess his real name is Zakan, but he is now affectionately known as Zappy Boy. I like Zakan in this cinematic. I think he actually he grounds Varrock a little bit, where Varrock was very much in his own head and dealing with his own personal guilt over the War of the Thorns and other actions. I think Zakan tries to bring him back to, Earth, and try to kind of ground him in reality and say that, yeah, we can live to fight another day. We can actually fix the horrible actions that we've committed. We can be better than that. And I do like how Zakan kind of embodies that, and Varrock is just so stubborn in the fact that he's guilty, he's angry, he's resentful over the fact he hasn't been able to receive his honorable death, that kind of takes things over until Zakan warms up to him in a sense. And I've actually been seeing a lot of people saying, if we have to overthrow Sylvanas in this expansion. We want Varrock to be able to step up to the war chief mantle. I'm not with you, and the only reason I'm not is, I kind of got spoiled, so I know at least a few more events that are going to be coming tomorrow that you guys will be able to see on the Horde side, and so I think that's also going to affect it, but I don't want to see Varrock be the war chief. I actually just want to see Varrock retire. I think he's seen so much of war, he doesn't know what else to do, and at this point, either it's better for him to go out to build a remote cabin in the middle of Nagrand, or just kind of sit in Orgrimmar, maybe, you know, take a desk job or something. I really don't want to see him put in more authority. I think he's done more than enough service to the Horde. He should be able to get that retirement. And in fact, if you were to ask me my honest opinion on who should replace Sylvanas at this point, I think they're setting up Bane. That Siege of Lordaeron cinematic was very powerful to me in the fact that where Saurfang gets caught and basically made a prisoner of war, Bane was never cool with it, and Bane has never really had a prominent story aside from maybe helping Vol'jin out in the Siege of Orgrimmar, but this time around I think they're actually setting Bane up to finally take up the mantle of the war chief. If I were to back one of the leaders, and that actually makes a really awesome video, if I were to back one of them, I'd probably back Bane, and the main reason being is I actually think true peace could be established between him and Anduin. And I think that's actually a good place to kind of end it. I love the cinematic. I think it was well done. I think they had a really great setup into the Siege of Orgrimmar to be able to tell a little bit more Horde story, as well as be able to set up for events to come. So I recommend it wholeheartedly if you haven't seen it already. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I guess we'll be back soon enough when Warbringers Azshara finally drops. We'll see you then.